Good morning, and a great Monday morning, Black New Mexico it is. And it's been an interesting morning, to say the least. While we are still continuing to battle COVID-19, we are still fighting the racism that continues to exist in this country. The New Mexico Office of African American Affairs are firm believers in interdependence. Knowing what affects one directly affects us all indirectly. We are appalled by the recent events that have transpired in Kentucky, Georgia, New Mexico, New York, and most recent, Minneapolis. For those who have lost lives in this senseless incidents, our hearts and love truly go out to your loved ones. One should not wonder, by merely walking out of their homes, what possible tragedy awaits us. As of late, every time we look at TV and or pick up a newspaper, we see another Black brother or sister being killed by the ones who are supposed to protect us. For many years, we have taken a stance against violence, hate, racism, and unlawful killings of Black people. Peaceful protests are a way of saying enough is enough. But what happens when the protest stops? Another Black person is killed unnecessarily. It is like a never-ending story. Now is the time for Black New Mexico to take a stand together and teach our young brothers and sisters how to make a difference by taking a stance and being active in ways that count. Teach them how to become presidents, CEOs, board members, legislators, educators, and governors. We need to start standing together and make our voices and feelings heard at school board meetings, during the legislation session, during the election, and so on. There is no better time to stop fighting each other and start standing together. This is the time for us to start communicating with one another, put aside any differences that we have continually allowed us to divide us, and come together as a unified front to help not only change our Black community, but New Mexico for the better. One has said, wherever I see an injustice, I'm going to speak out. If I can't speak out, I'm going to stand up against it. And if I can't stand up, I'm just going to get a chair and I'm going to sit in the way. Now it is my pleasure to turn this over to our facilitators, Director Harvey, Director Covington, and Vice Chancellor Martin. Stay safe and healthy, Black New Mexico. Thank you.
Good morning, Black New Mexico. My name is Jim Harvey. I'm with the Albuquerque Center for Peace and Justice, and I'm joined by one of my facilitator colleagues, Tanya Covington. Good morning, Tanya.
Good morning.
We've got a really exciting and interesting conversation for today. We're talking about COVID mask making. But before I do my introductions and turn this over to our speaker for the day, let me do my myths and misconceptions. The feds continue to do almost nothing to help with testing. Numbers may be leveling off in some places around the country, but are rising in others, so we cannot afford to relax any of the standards that have been put in place by our enlightened and wise health officials. Despite news of businesses opening and reopening, don't be misled by what we hear from you-know-who in Washington. We still have to practice social distancing, wear our masks, wash our hands frequently, and clean surfaces well. Let's stay vigilant. Let's stay safe. Let's keep ourselves and one another well. It's my pleasure to introduce to you this morning Andrea Tammy Watson. She's the executive assistant here at the Office of African American Affairs in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She is currently attending school at UNM to obtain her bachelor's in communications. She worked for PCA International Incorporated for 15 years as a district manager, where she managed 12 stores, where she determined marketing strategies and daily operations, and meeting sales budgets. She also worked in administration for the State Bar of New Mexico. She helps with volunteer work throughout the community, helping primarily with children and youth. Tammy has successfully organized health fairs and coordinated geriatric health classes and hosted youth conferences. She recently has become a certified suicide prevention coach for teens and young adults, critically needed. Tammy is married to her husband of 25 years, Barry Watson, and has 3 children, Devontae, Dion, and Siobhan Watson. I proudly turn this over to Tammy Watson. Good morning, Tammy.
Good morning. How are you?
Just fine.
Good. Today, we're going to learn how to do mask making. And we know that the governor is wanting us to wear masks in public and when we're out of our homes. So, and it's very important. So I'm going to give you 2 techniques today how to make masks. Both of them do not require sewing machines. One is very simple for those that don't use needle and thread. And then one is a little bit more involved, but not too hard. So I will use both techniques, whichever one is going to work better for you. I'm going to start out with the first one. And basically, I bought this at Walmart, and it's just a plain piece of cloth. And it was $1.47. So you don't have to spend a ton of money on these items. It also is going to require just a simple dish, which is a plate at home. And of course, needle and thread and scissors. So those are the items that you're going to need, and as well as an elastic. Now, I know elastics are kind of hard to find right now in Albuquerque. So what I did find was hair ties. And you can go to the dollar store and buy just simple hair ties. So what we're going to do is with the plate, we have, this is going to be your guide. On the cloth, what you can do is trace the plate on the material. So I don't know if you can see it, but with a pen, just a plain everyday pen, I just traced it, and you will then cut it out. Now I'm going to skip that step because I know that you all can cut out and follow the line. So it's going to look just like this. And it's just the regular dish plate at your home. I think it's 10 inches, I believe. So after you do that, you're just simply going to fold it in half. I did use an iron on this, and I pressed it so that it would be even. And then after that, you're just going to cut it in half. So, like I said, you have this regular circle that I'm just going to cut in half. Okay, so when I cut it in half, it's then going to create 2 halves. And also make sure that when you cut these in half, you flip them over so the inside of the material is going to face each other. You're then going to line them up. Most people might have like stick pins maybe, or you can use paper clips to hold the two sides together, whatever you have. I mean, you don't really necessarily have to go out and buy a lot. So in this case, I'm just going to pin these two together so that they don't move. Like I said, use whatever is handy in your house. You don't really have to go out and buy a whole lot. If you have paper clips, you can use that too. You're just trying to hold these two together so that they don't slip. So I am pinning them together. Then you're going to get your needle and thread. I have to use this little eye thing to put it in because I can't see. So anyway, what we're going to do is just sew the front, or we're going to sew all the way to the middle. And by hand, we can do that just real quick, just in, out, in, out. I'm going to do this real quickly. Not hard. Now I know that there's some masks that you can even get online if you have that opportunity to order it, but we're trying to keep this as cost efficient as possible because I know that we need to wear them immediately, and a lot of times you have to wait for them if you're ordering them online, but just go along these lines or the circumference of this. And then when you get about right here, you're going to stop. And tie it off. Then on the other side, you're going to want to leave a little hole. So we're going to flip this inside out. We're then going to leave maybe like a 2-inch gap right here and then start again, following the outside of this circle. And to make one of these, I think it takes about maybe half an hour, 40 minutes. If you have a sewing machine, you certainly can do that, and it will take you a lot less time. I know the majority of us don't really have sewing machines. That's not something that I have, so I'm going to do this real quickly. We also want to practice social distancing when we go into these stores and to these places of business. Make sure that you're standing 6 feet apart. Very important. Another thing I think we're not paying attention to is when we go into these stores like Walmart or Target or wherever we're going, they have arrows down the aisles that we're supposed to go certain ways. Make sure that you're doing that so that we're properly socially distancing from other people. So make sure that you're paying attention to that. Okay, so as you can see, I've already gone down the edges of this half circle. So we're going to cut the thread. And now you see that I have a half or that little hole right here. So with this, we're going to fold this in half, like so. Okay. And then here's the mask, and it's eventually it's going to look like this. I have one that I already made, so you're going to line the two corners together on this side and on this side. And then you're going to sew along this side and also this side. Okay, so we'll do that real quickly. Whoa. So I already have these pre-threaded, so that's why it's going by really quickly. So we're going to, again, sew along the outline of this material. Now, if you're making this for a child, of course, this might be a little bit too big. You can use a smaller plate as your guide when you're tracing it. So make sure if it's for a smaller child, you're not using the same size because, of course, the mask is going to be a little bit too big for them. So, and you can see that it's coming together. It's not taking too long. And you can use, when you pick your material also, you want to pick one that's going to be breathable. Sometimes if you pick something that's not cotton or other than cotton, it's kind of hard to breathe. So make sure you're getting a breathable material. I tried, the first ones I made are with denim, and that's a really good material, but especially in the summertime, it's a little bit harder to breathe, and it's also, it gets really hot. So you might want to use a lighter weight. Now these are, this is doubled up, so it is going to be pretty thick. So you're not going to have to worry about it being too thin. Okay, so almost done. Okay. So just do this real quick. Okay, so just tie off this and cut it. Now, remember we left that little hole in the center. This is where you're going to turn it inside out. Make sure you push all the ends. Well, you're still going to have that little hole inside. Now you could actually, if you wanted to leave that open, you could, because you could put filters in there. Or you can go ahead and sew it up. But this is what it's going to look like. If what you're going to want to do at this point is just to iron it to make sure it's nice and flat and it's even. And I've already done that with this particular one. I've ironed it. So the only thing we have left to do is to put on the elastics. And you're going to get this little end right here and turn it down. This is where the elastic is going to come in. Like I said, you can just get hair ties because elastics are kind of hard to find right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this elastic in here and I'm going to sew this little corner. in just a few stitches. It doesn't have to be perfect, so. And then tie it off. And you can just go ahead and get this and tie it like so, and kind of stuff it in there. So you have this. Then you're going to do the same thing with the other side, with the other band. Get this. Turn it down. Go ahead and sew that little tab. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect here. Okay. And go ahead and tie. I don't know if you can see this. Now this particular one that I have, I had to cut, but you'd also just use like regular hair ties. And then there you have it. You're all set. Okay. Another one we can also make, for those of you that don't really have the scissor, or not have it, but just don't use scissors and thread. Everybody has an old t-shirt. Just get a t-shirt out of your drawer, whatever you're using, new, old, it doesn't matter. And this one is really, really simple. You just need a ruler. You're going to measure 10 by 5. So I already marked this one off. So it's 10 inches and then by 5 inches. Go ahead and cut it out. I know you can't see me cutting, but I'll do this real quickly. And you're just going to cut basically a rectangle. Let's see. Okay. And just a regular rectangle. You're then going to take about a 1/2 inch and cut the slits on the side. Or an easier way actually is to, out of this rectangle, fold it in half, like so. And then maybe about a 1/2 inch. You're gonna cut your slits on this side. Maybe about a 1/2 inch. Cut your slits. And very simple. You have a mask. So that's mask making. It can be fun. It could be very simple. Just depends on which way you want to make them, whether you want to sew or whether you're a person that just wants to do something simple. But like I said, everybody has a t-shirt, some scissors. You can make it simple or you can make it elaborate. So whatever you decide, have fun with it. But make sure to be safe and wear your masks when you go out in public.
Tammy Watson, thank you ever so much. This is fantastic. It takes me back to my home ec days when I was in school too.
Right?
You know, exactly. I'm glad I've saved my needle and thread. Yes, I'm so glad you emphasized again the importance of us continuing to social distance and wear our masks. I just wish that more of the businesses and restaurants that are opening and cater to us, would be a little bit more enforceful on their end and say, if you don't have a mask, you can't come in the store, you can't come in the restaurant. It's for your safety and it's for everybody else's safety as well. So thank you so much for this important skill that is easy, and anybody that's got a needle and thread can contribute to their own safety and the safety of others. Really appreciate that.
And
Thanks
don't forget,
again,
just
Jenny.
even the simple t-shirt. You don't even need a needle and thread.
Yes, that was a wonderful one there. I'm going to go home and see if I can find some old fabric and pull out that, and I'll have some extras around the house that I can use, as well. That's fantastic. Good news. I appreciate you, and thanks so much for your contribution.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, we don't have any questions, but a lot of people have written in to say, great job, Tammy. So just wanted to let you know that. All right, we want to move on now, and our next update comes from our esteemed representative from the New Mexico Health Department, my good friend, my new good best buddy, Sonia Smith. Sonia?
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Shout out to Tammy. Thank you so much. It took me back to my Girl Scout days when we had to do projects, and I really could have used you on the team to get that patch. But anyway, thank you so very much for that. As you alluded to, our governor has mandated that masks are required in public. And if there are institutions that are not complying with this public health order, you can let us know anonymously. On the DOH website, there is a hotline for reporting noncompliance. So if you are inclined to do so, please do that. It's not snitching, not snitching. What it is protecting New Mexicans. Okay, so enough of that, on with the updates. Here, so we had a very good testing drive this weekend here in Albuquerque and in Alamogordo and also in Las Cruces. So in New Hope, at New Hope in Albuquerque, under the leadership of Bishop Cooper, we tested 112 people. In Alamogordo, under the leadership of Pastors Avery, who oversees New Zion, and Pastor Forney, who oversees Corinth Baptist, we tested 122 people. And then on yesterday in Las Cruces, under the leadership of Pastor Brian Harvey, with the assistance of Mr. Mike Davis, we tested 75 people at Bethel Second Baptist. So we are getting our numbers up and coming. So thank you so very much for coming out and being tested. This Saturday, we will be at New Covenant in Rio Rancho under the leadership of Pastor Eddie McCall. We'll be there from 8:30 to 11. A flyer will be circulating soon on that to the community, but you can always reach out to the Office of African American Affairs to get information. So just to kind of round out the update, as of yesterday, we have 7,689 positive New Mexicans across the state. We've had 356 deaths, and in the Black community, we have approximately 230 who are positive. Overall, to date, we've tested almost 200,000 people. So as we continue to reopen, continue to get tested, and we're always here to answer your questions. For more up-to-date information, not just about what's going on in the Black community, you can go to the DOH website. So thank you so very much. Those are my updates, Jim. Thank you.
Sonia, thank you so much for that. That's important that we stay on top of just what's happening in our community and around the state, particularly as we know, without a doubt, that when white people get a cold, Black people get pneumonia. And that rule applies with COVID-19 like never before. So we have to stay on top of this and watch our health and really be responsible for ourselves and one another. So your information is always valued. Thank you so much. Tanya Covington? What have we got going on now?
Well, wanted to again always thank people for joining. Please make sure that you get the word out so that as many people as possible can join us on this podcast. And please, Tammy, that was a wonderful, wonderful showing of easy mask making, which means everybody should have a mask. You should also make sure that all of your neighbors have masks, especially if you have any elderly neighbors. And remember, you wear the mask to protect them. Wanted to say that we're going to be continuing next week. We are going to be talking about education. And this is going to be a very important show. We know that schools were closed early. They're still not sure about when schools are going to be opening, and if so, in what form. And that's really important because we know already that Black children have a tendency to sometimes lag behind other kids. And one of the things that happens quite often is we don't get the messages that we should get. We don't get told about how to sign up for college, how to know about financial help for getting to college. And so we're going to be talking about all of that next week. So please, if you know anybody who has children, if you know anybody who is a teacher, please make sure that they tune in, because we're going to have some information, some of which may be new to you. And we're going to dispel some myths around Black education as well. So hopefully looking forward to that. And then the week after that, we're going to be talking about gardening and canning, and hopefully teaching our community to be more self-sufficient. One of the things that you might be thinking about is if you have a small patch of land and you feel like it could be used for gardening, but you're not a big garden person yourself, then maybe we can get some people to come over and do gardening for you. Do sort of a gardening cooperative. So again, these are some of the things that we're going to be discussing over the next couple of weeks. Again, if you like this show, please let other people know. Please invite them. Monday morning, 11 o'clock. This is your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you for that update on the schedule as well. And I just want to let you know that as a point of personal privilege, we're going to round out our June presentations with me discussing interpersonal violence. It's a topic that we don't really like to talk about, typically called domestic violence. We're going to talk about interpersonal violence as well, and what that means when you're locked up like this and we're, pinned down and can't get out like we're supposed to. If our jobs are on the line, if we're working from home, if we're not. The whole subject of interpersonal violence is something that affects us all. And so we encourage you to please spread the word as we prepare to talk about this really hard topic: domestic violence, sexual violence, frustration and violence in the home, child abuse, child violence. It's all there. So we're going to round out our June presentations by talking about interpersonal violence. Spread the word, and we'll be on for that. Dr. Martin is tied up in another event this morning, so we're not probably going to have him joining us. But if anyone has any questions that they'd like to share with us before we sign off, this is the time to hit that chat room and let us know. And like I said, we've gotten plenty of congratulations to Tammy Watson for her presentation. And again, we're very thankful for that. And guess what? Dr. Martin has joined us. And I'm going to now turn this over to Dr. Jamal Martin.
Thank you very much, everyone. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, community. Sorry for being late. I was tied up in another meeting at the hospital. From what I saw of what was presented today, I think it was a fantastic job that was presented by Tammy. And she probably mentioned some of these things, which I also like to thank Sonia for her updates also too. That's a fantastic job that everyone had accomplished over this weekend. And so just a few words about cloth face coverings. I want to remind everybody that the reason why we do this is because, first of all, we're very family and community oriented. And we want to wear these face masks because we're trying to prevent community transmission. So it is highly recommended that we wear face masks. You know, and the reason why we're going to wear the face masks is because, you know, surgical masks and N95 masks, you know, respirators are in short supply. But studies do show that we can use these face masks to cut down on the infection. However, it is important that we always remember to stay home as much as possible, practice social distancing, remaining at least 6 feet away, although studies show you should be at least 12 feet away, but that's another story. Wash your hands often. And I'm sure that Tammy mentioned this, that, you know, after you've worn that face mask once, you should definitely wash it out in a washing machine or by hand by using a bleach solution and allow it to completely dry before using it again. So there are lots of different stipulations about this in terms of how important it is to remember that whether you have a fever or not, or you have symptoms or not, people who don't have the symptoms can still spread the disease. So again, face masking and social distancing is really, really important. Make sure that the nose and the mouth are completely covered. This weekend at a vigil, I saw lots of people wearing masks, but I also saw people not wearing masks over their nose and just covering their mouth. You know, make sure the mask fits snugly on the side so there are no gaps. Make sure you don't have any difficulty breathing. And please do not put a mask on a 2-year-old or a child under 2. That could be real dangerous if they have problems breathing or if they become unconscious, incapacitated, or unable to remove the mask without assistance. So these are just practical common sense things that we should keep in hand because I hate to say it, but this virus is going to be with us for a while. It's going to be with us for a while. So we need to do the practical, logical things to maintain the health and well-being of ourselves as individuals and our families. So that's pretty much it. You know, good job again. I'm glad to be here to help out and support any way that I can. And I'm looking forward to the next set of presentations. And hopefully we can continue this sometime after this funding grant runs out. And state legislators or anybody else that you're listening or private entrepreneur groups that want to donate some money. We'd like to keep this going. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can't just end in June and leave it there. There's so much more that we have to talk about, and COVID-19 is not going away at the end of June. So we've got to find a way to keep messaging in every way we possibly can. Dr. Martin, thank you so much.
Thank you, folks.
For coming on board, and we appreciate and value your continued contribution. All right, so like I said, we've gotten quite a few compliments today. And no questions that we really need to answer. So we just encourage everyone to continue to practice safety, practice health safety. It's good for you, it's good for others, and that's the way we will survive COVID-19. This concludes our presentation for this Monday morning. We encourage you to take care of yourselves, stay home, stay healthy, and above all, be safe.